Whew, today was crazy. Well, the job I have is weird because it's alternately crazy and like not crazy. Because you're working a desk, and sometimes it's just kind of eventless. I've done everything I need to do. I'll read the news, or read my book, and chat with my coworkers. But then it's like all crazy, and every time you're about to complete a thought or a sentence, a phone rings for a door to open or a line to answer or something like that. Secretaries really earn their money. Dang. How was that ever considered an effete word describing an effete occupation? It's like a lot of work. You're like helping keep the place going. And there's a lot of like psychic work that you do also. I just mean like emotional, mood setting, tone setting, and so on. You're often the first face that kids see when they get to school. Students often arrive in tears. Not often, but some students here and there. I'd say there's one or two a day in tears. Certainly a week. Today there were two. Oh, today I was a little teary. I mean, the craziest thing, I talked about it on the channel yesterday, but I just found out this teenager, 14 years old, who was killed at the corner of Tramway and Copper trying to break into an apartment with friends, was one of the same teenagers that terrorized me and my family for a couple of years. And that's crazy. But it just kind of like stupidly woke up my PTSD again, just this story and reading about it and thinking about this guy and bringing him back into like my mental and emotional like space. That was just a time of real trauma. Not at the beginning associating with him, because I knew this guy when he was a little kid. Same with his companion. I remember when they were sweet kids. I remember when the kid moved to the area. What's up, squirrel? In your little corner box, it's for you. Nope. Behind the couch, that's very sad. So I was reading and thinking about that this morning, and I was talking about it a little bit to coworkers, but they didn't have any of the background, really. Just a couple of things I've said at times. The setup was not there for them to fully appreciate just how insane it is that it's that kid that did that. I'm like, ugh. So anyway, right after that, a bunch of kids were late to first period, and the reason was there was somebody on the freeway threatening to jump at where Carlisle crosses the freeway, Carlisle Boulevard, Interstate 40, formerly Route 66, kinda, or right parallel to it, formerly a Buffalo Trail. Oh, and a Stagecoach Road at one point. Anyway, there was a jumper on the bridge, guy committing suicide, and the news story I saw in the morning was freeway closed down for police action. That was all it said. But we heard from everybody that it was a jumper, and one of the students that came in had seen the person do it and has covered his younger siblings' eyes, or tried to stop them from seeing it happen, and got to school right after it had happened. Like, holy crap. I'm like, you should not have to see that. And I'm like, your younger siblings should really not have to see that. And it's so sad. And suicide is so sad. And to have it right there. But then, within the same hour of those two thoughts and happenings, I got a text from my daughter that one of her very best friends is in the hospital and may die of an overdose, will probably die of an overdose, and got back into some really bad stuff, but had stayed away from my daughter because she didn't want to bring her into it, which I appreciate, but also it meant this person just stayed quiet and none of her friends realized she was back into it. And, oh, it's so sad. She's such a cool person. A waitress at a cool local diner. Punk rock as heck. As punk rock as my daughter, like, in a similar way. Ugh, the street is so close in Albuquerque. It's crazy. Even upper class people are close to the street in Albuquerque. Like La Cueva, the fanciest high school in town, in the richest area. They have a fight club that meets in a local park. I fear my son has been to some of those events. He also goes to a really rich school, but on a complete scholarship. He has all rich friends. And his siblings call him the only rich kid in a poor family. But anyway, that was like 3 things. a counselor at the school I was working at out today, that I've been working at, she just had a bunch of stuff going on too, including her daughter getting in a car wreck that she was fortunately fine from. It was super nice, and like could see I was a little teary and gave me a hug. I appreciated it. Trauma is so real and stupid, and like PTSD is so real and stupid. Like your brain is sitting here being like, stupid freaking body, stop it. You don't need to do fight or flight. You know? If anything, you're safer than ever. One of your assailants is dead. You know, I mean, but fight or flight is like crazy. It's like a gray cat on a bookshelf. It just keeps coming back, eclipsing the light. But it's like all day, like my heart was just like racing. I was like, gah. It started to taper off by afternoon. I made a conscious effort not to talk about these things. Like I had been kind of eager to tell a couple of people there what I had found out about that shooting, because I had had conversations about that shooting with some people there before. But then I was just, after I had a conversation with my colleagues in the front, they're real employees. I'm a temp, so, but still, we're coworkers. Do you need help getting up, Squirrel? You're a little chunky. She mooned me when I mentioned her weight. So anyway, but it was an all right day. I mean, aside from all that biz. One of the principals called at one point. She's like, how's it been around there? I'm like, the vibes were off in the morning, but I think they improved. Probably like, what a hippie. Oh, she's cool. She has a leather jacket. And all these people that I work with are really like way understanding of these kids. Honestly, I'm like too understanding. Like some of these kids are punks. I mean, I would be one suspension happy principal, I think, if I was ever a principal. I'd be like, you know what? You're going to be like that. Get out of here. And I'd find creative consequences that would make the kids not do it. If you're writing stuff all over the school walls or spray painting, like you're going to be doing a lot of wall cleaning, you know? Like punishment is not discipline, to quote Norm Lee, the desert rider. I don't know, they usually just give students like a couple of days suspension or in-school suspension. But in-school suspension is also like hanging out with your friends on one level, just in a weird environment. But it's crazy. I mean, it would be a really difficult job. I have a lot of renewed respect for school people. And it's like, and why? You have to really believe in the next generation, you know, to do that job. And there really are smart students and cool students and some talented freaking artists. I'll tell you. Albuquerque often, I've heard comments that a lot of the musicians in Albuquerque come from Manzano, in part from David Ostrovis's famous guitar program, locally famous, that he replicated all over for APS. And that has since seemed to have lapsed at the school. Like when my daughter took it, the guitars were all in really bad shape, and she couldn't believe it. But you can only do what you have the funding for, I suppose. I personally don't think charter schools should get public education money. You want to start a private school, cool. But communities do need public education, and that's where the money should go. And getting property taxes and to fund schools and parks and only in small zone districts is so messed up. Poor areas get crappy parks and crappy everything. And rich areas get 20 trash cans checked all the time, you know? I once did a survey of all of Albuquerque's parks that had a playground in them for my dad's playground company. Wow, was that interesting. I learned a lot about gangs, a lot about homeless culture. I tell you, there's kind of nothing sadder than seeing a bar of soap at a public drinking fountain. I don't know what I'm even talking about. I'm talking all over. It's just a day. My mind's all over. Oh, I hope Dylan's okay. Internine's friend. I've known people to recover from crazy stuff. All right, let's look at the rest of this shelf. Right. I think it'd be cool if all the cases get completely full in the way that this one is. Never doubled, because I like to see what I have, you know, but just completely filling the front. Guys, I have an open area there if I get more nonfiction paperback. This is the nonfiction paperback overflow from this. Sometimes I think, should I just have one case of nonfiction paperbacks? But even that would be a challenge to read all of, even though this one here is smaller than that one that the fiction's on. This holds about 200. I bet this holds like 150. That would be an interesting challenge, though, to try to find this amount of books to get rid of from nonfiction. But then what would fill this case? More weird books? Am I going to acquire more weird books, I suppose? At what rate? Okay, this is a beautiful copy, but I know I just recently looked at another copy of this. I didn't know I had two. Crazy Horse, The Strange Man of the Ogalas. Look at this beautiful modern book. I love it. Pretty. Paintings and drawings are the way to go for covers. I watched a video on YouTube about why covers are so boring now. It's so that they can be recognizable and meaningful at a really small level when they're like a thumbnail on a phone. In part, I know there's lots of reasons too. Just laziness in making them. Put it together on a computer. You can spot a quick computer session a mile away in modern covers. Not that the only good work is, labored over. Inspiration does happen. I was looking for this copy of True Grit I have that I think is the worst cover of any book I have. Got like CGI blood on it. It's hard. You want to just accept everything for what it is, but some things are like visually offensive to me. You're so lazy and your design game is so poor. Not these books. These are good. Beautiful. Amazing. Wow. Magritte meets Native America. Meets something else. The way that hawk's eye is over the person's eye. That's so cool. Tag is from page 1. It's not coming off easy. I need to get the same scraping tool and alcohol bottle system that I had at UNM Bookstore when I worked there. One time we had a lockdown for a suspected incident right when I was about to leave work at the end of the day. I had to go pick up my kids. That was crazy. We were in there for hours. Literal metal net came down and put us all in a cage. This is a book of nature writing. Helen Hoover, A Place in the Woods. Yeah, I love nature writing. 1969, about a family surviving in the woods. That's crazy. Pretty cool. Nature writing is often very beautiful writing too. I mean, it's often environmental, but it's often akin to a still life, but a still life that's not dead life. It's pulsing. Honestly, a good description of trees can be very, very satisfying. You're like, yeah, trees are awesome. I should read this one. I sure hate that Facebook updates show up on my phone no matter what I'm using my phone for. I don't care. I haven't made a Facebook post in a year. Please leave me be, digital world. Ugh, I feel that toothache coming back. I thought it was gone. The Great War. Modern Memory. This is the winner of the National Book Award. My younger sibling, my younger sister, now formerly my younger brother, got so into this book that I was sent a copy by him, now her, which is very cool. That said, I have still not read it. But it's a beautiful illustrated copy. I think I started it once. There's a lot to it. And maybe I did read it a long time ago. No, I don't think I did all the way through. But I will. It's supposed to be great. It's about how so many of the cultural elements that exist today really came about as a result of this giant war that has kind of been memory hold overall, even though there are still movies and things about it. 1917 is a particularly good one. Samuel Clemens of Hannibal. This was in a recent free box haul, and it's beautiful. It has a great texture. I love that. It's like it's woven or something. This book is pretty high on my to-read list. In fact, I may keep it out because I feel like I read something revolutionary just reading about him recently. I was reading his Wikipedia, or no, it was in here, but then I was reading his Wikipedia. But I was reading that he lived in this mid-sized city, and he said, I would never move away because I would hate to impoverish it by even one person. I'm like, that's such an interesting way to think about place. And, what do we owe to where we live? There's kind of an attitude about that that's built into some longtime families in Albuquerque, particularly Hispanic families. No, you got to represent Albuquerque, etc. But there's pride among a lot of people, and I've talked with many in the scene, the music and arts scene, that talked about it would be disloyal to leave. I don't know that this person still feels this way, but I remember Jeremy of A Hawk and a Hacksaw and Neutral Milk Hotel here in town telling me that he had played shows overseas, like in Italy with A Hawk and a Hacksaw, that all these people with Zia tattoos would show up and he'd be like taunting them from stage, saying things like, if you love New Mexico so much, why are you here? So maybe he has some of that attitude. Or I went through a little town in 2001, Max Meadows, Virginia, and they had a sign just outside it that said, bloom where you're planted. And I'm like, you don't want to condemn a person to staying somewhere forever, but it would be kind of cool to like feel in your community like you were all part of a big project of like improving and bettering and perfecting the world, perfecting the human experience, like we're going somewhere. Some sort of Tomorrowland utopia type thing, It's possible. One of my favorite sci-fi books is The Man Who Awoke. And love this book. A guy wakes up every 5,000 years until, spoiler alert, eventually he gets to a time where immortality has been discovered. It's so interesting. Every single one of the sections, such a well-realized world and time. And one of them, like, humans have basically become inert. They've perfected everything through AI and futuristic technology to the point that they just don't have to do anything. And so humans are kind of like, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, morally, or just kind of like blah. And I think he inspires a revolution in that one. But there's all kinds of extremes, and it's so cool. It's so interesting. Sci-fi really accomplishes something. I'm writing a sci-fi novel right now. I'm plotting it out with 90 index cards in a tribute to David Lynch. 90 imagistic index cards. I'm thinking about Lynch a bit. And that was always his method, he said, for making a movie. Just get 90 index cards and write your ideas down. Then you have a movie. So I want to read this, and I want to read about Plutarch. This place is one of my big themes, and the city I live in has become one of my big themes. A guiding quote for me in putting my own book together, Shadows of Clouds on the Mountains, which is coming together. I just got to finish this one chapter by doing 7 interviews. I have to do these interviews. I need to get proactive on that. I just need to get a little financially stable. No, I'm going to still get proactive on it. So knocking out articles for an online newspaper now. Subscription-based newsletter if anyone wants to subscribe to Nob Hill News. It's about just one part of Albuquerque, the greater Nob Hill area. It's a pretty big area. I love the challenge of I'm going to come up with at least 100, because that's a nice number, 100 little 650-word descriptions and explorations of a place in the Nob Hill area. And I'm going to use free and direct discourse and let my voice creep in, but I'm going to keep it third person. The shorter the piece of writing, the more you don't really want personal details. Like if I read like a blurb music review and someone goes off on a personal digression, I'm like, I feel ripped off because you only have so much space. That's my philosophy on such stuff. You can mix yourself in your personality into a work more in a bigger work, whatever. But a guiding quote from my own book is, or a thought really, is that review that James Joyce got where somebody said, if Dublin were to be destroyed, it could be recreated by all the details in Ulysses, which is not true, but I like the thought. I want to kind of achieve a similar effect in my book for Albuquerque, especially in book 2 of my book. Honestly, I often like the idea of putting setting, like time and place, above protagonist. And, because you're always getting the protagonist no matter what in the voice. Yes, if it's first person. Wait. Yeah, and mine is first person because it's memoir. So Plutarch was like, I wonder if he's considered like the great-grandfather of all biographers today. No, because Einhard wrote about Charlemagne back in the year 700. This is a really good book, actually. Even though the scholar who writes the introduction is really snobby and is like, it pretty much draws from other existing sources that we have already. But it's written by someone that worked with this king. It's like that's amazing. A biography of Charlemagne by someone that knew him, and it's crazy to read about the predecessor countries of France and Germany. Plutarch. Also, come on, great cover. It's just great. Simple, cool. Probably a collage of statues and images of him. That's pretty rad. Typography by Stefan Salter, but who did? And relative of James Salter? I wonder. Hegel. Yeah, I have some philosophical books. I think I have this for a reason. Wasn't he an influence on Dostoevsky? I hope I caught that on tape. Sometimes reading philosophy, I have this thought that, is my brain broken? How come people I was an undergraduate with understood this so well? And I think I'm a little confused at times. No, that's not true. Whoa, this totally must have influenced Dostoevsky. In fact, I think he did read Hegel, right? Or he requested a Hegel book, I remember reading in that biography. Okay, he's mentioned in here twice. One of his books is mentioned, and Hegelian philosophy and another subject, left Hegelianism, are both mentioned. Dostoevsky could hardly have obtained everything he asked for. At the time, he was sharing a cottage with Baron Wrangel, who refers to the pitiful stock of our books and pictures Dostoevsky rereading each of them a countless number of times. Aww. But honestly, that is a good way to get to know works, is to just not have that many and read them a bunch. He probably knew them on a deeper level, and that's part of why he put so much depth into his work. Why he could, The young Wrangel tells his father that he and his newfound friend Dostoevsky intend to translate Hegel's philosophy and the psyche of Carew. Hegel's philosophy. History of philosophy, it says in the index. So he was a fan, so that's why I have this book. I wonder if this is the book that Dostoevsky meant. It's called Reason in History, but sometimes titles get changed in translation. This was called History of Philosophy. No, that's different. But they both have the word history. Bob's Merrill. It's got to be coffee. But that's not for me. That's from some beatnik in the 60s, probably. Oh, in the 50s. 1953. Wow. Another reason to have this book. See, that could totally go in the antique section, but this is very readable and in good condition still. Way to go, 1950s book craftsmanship. I once rode on a bus with some kind of economics student that was studying planned obsolescence, making things designed to break after a while so you can sell more of them, and deals with other companies to do that. Like there's a light bulb that's 120 years old that's still burning, but the light bulb companies are like, yeah, we should not make them that good. We'll never sell 2 light bulbs to anybody if we do that. It was one of the early company getting together thing. What do you call that? Conspiracy? Price fixing. What's that supposed to be? Book? Opening? Books? Plows? Going into the earth? A Rorschach test for me? People diving into a portal? Some sort of book thing flying away? I was going to read this part and I lost my place. It was so Raskolnikovian about how leaders are... So it's Caesar. And this book is probably really good. I keep finding great paragraphs. It's about a hero. The hero. Found it. Caesar was such a man. Before reaching his position of superiority, he was in danger of losing his place of equality with the other leaders of Rome. He was about to succumb to those who were just becoming his enemies. These enemies who at the same time pursued their own personal interests, had on their side the formal constitution of Rome and the power of legal appearance. Caesar fought to keep his position, honor, and safety, but victory over his enemies who held the power over all Roman provinces became at the same time conquest of the entire empire. Thus Caesar, without changing the form of the constitution, became the sole ruler of the state. In accomplishing his originally negative purpose, the autocracy over Rome, he at the same time fulfilled the necessary historical destiny of Rome and the world. Thus he was motivated not only by his own private interests, but acted instinctively to bring to pass that which the times required. It is the same with all great historical individuals. Their own particular purposes contain the substantial will of the world spirit. They must be called heroes insofar as they have derived their purpose and vocation not from the calm, regular course of things sanctioned by the existing order, but from a secret source whose content is still hidden and has not yet broken through into existence. The source of their actions is the inner spirit, still hidden beneath the surface, but already knocking against the outer world as against a shell, in order finally to burst forth and break it into pieces, for it is a kernel different from that which belongs to the shell. They are men, therefore, who appear to draw the impulses of their lives from themselves. Their deeds have produced a condition of things and a complex of historical relations that appear to be their own interest and their own work. Yeah, I genuinely want to read this. I now have an intellectual curiosity about Hegel. Anything connected to Dostoevsky and his work interests me because Dostoevsky is a word wizard, The guy's like, no, you don't need to indent. You just have to be awesome. Cool. How do I do that? So whatever you do, be super amazing. Now, this is a really interesting topic, you have to admit. And this book might be all the more interesting for being older, you know? Like, people talked a little more openly about things, seemed less afraid to step on toes, and, you know, maybe they should have been because they're often registered as a lack of sensitivity. But I bet this is really interesting, you know? You saw it. The book attacked me. Just minding my own business, filming. This is the first full-scale sociological survey of the assimilation of minority groups in America. Interesting. Professor Gordon has found that the familiar concepts of cultural pluralism and the melting pot are inadequate to describe a much more complex social organization of racial, religious, and nationality groups, which he defines as structural pluralism. According to his findings, the American assimilation pattern has been one of massive acculturation or behavioral assimilation, as well as the maintenance of considerable structural separation. Isn't the general rule that if people are forced to be somewhere, they're less likely to assimilate? They choose to go there, they're more likely to assimilate and want to. Like, that's why people like will get down on like refugees or something, this or that group, coming to an area and kind of trying to maintain their own identity. It's like, because they didn't want to be here. You know, things did not go well. Somebody at some point, something to do with every white person's ancestors for sure. But sociology is so great. There's so many different degrees I would love to have, and like just things I'd like to know. I recently watched and really enjoyed the Man from Earth movies, these indie films about a man who reveals to people that he's 14,000 years old, that he just has some mutation that doesn't let him age. And they're great. That first one especially, they're both great. I want the third one. Super interesting indie films. They like justify their existence. They carry. Anyway, one of the cool things I love is that he's an academic because and he has like every degree pretty much because he's had so much time to live. I love that. There's a scene at a party where he's like, "You're the only person whose degree I don't have." What do we have here? A biography of Eugene Debs, citizen and socialist, winner of the 1982 Bancroft Prize. I love an outspoken rabble-rouser. You show me an outspoken rabble-rouser, I'll show you a pal. Well, depending. There's morons for every issue that exists, both sides. But I think this guy was great. I'd like to read this. And America needs a big dose of class consciousness. Oh, yeah. The rich should wish it now, you know, because it doesn't tend to go well in societies when things are pushed to their limits, you know. More people should really study the French Revolution, what Mark Twain called the Long Terror before that. I'll never forget this YouTube interview I saw with a futurist. It may have been Ray Kurzweil, but somebody like that, who was approached by all these super wealthy people about how could hold on to their wealth after a global collapse of everything, including the monetary system. And how could they still get people to do it? And they literally suggested to the futurist shock collars, deep freezers for food with all of the rich only had the keys for it, for administering it. I mean, we're talking the people who are building their bunkers in New Zealand and so on right now. Dr. Strange loving it. Yeah, the homepage at my work is MSN, and I gotta say they always have really dire headlines. It's just this country preparing for war, that country preparing for war. But I would like to read this. Someday I will. Oh, it was marked by someone. Eugene Debs. I'd like to know more about socialist and communist activists in America over time and so on. I'm not anti-communism. I'm telling you, if we were to program into AI how to have the most efficient, best government, it would be some sort of a distributed collectivist network or system to provide for all. It would be, you know, computer-like in its administration. You know, cover everything. Elements would be centralized, you know, and elements would be spread out. But I don't think we've ever really seen it tested either, you know, because we have a very aggressive capitalist hegemony that interferes with it. The CIA alone has overthrown about 200 governments that we know of. Read Gary Will's Bomb Power for more on that. That's not conspiracy. That's a history book. I think I gave that book away. I did. I gave it away at the camp I was working at this summer to Ben, and I don't regret it. But when a book is really good, you can freely give it away, because if you're a regular book buyer and collector and someone who keeps their eyes open for the books you care about, anyway, I'll read this sometime. Some dog going nuts. Maybe a couple. Let's open the book at random and learn our fortune. Oh, I did not like that sound. I just heard the binding die a little. But within these limits, Deb's appeal was quite powerful. Okay, they're talking about Eugene Debs, but maybe this is about a Deb in your life. It's even punctuated in a way that would allow that. Be someone literally named Deborah, or, kind of symbolically a Deborah. Picture someone fancy and sophisticated. Another fortune. Eugene Debs did not attend the party's convention, although he did approve of the stand it adopted. So, it's another thing you could just take into your life a little bit. You're back with your friends. Stop crying. I know the conditions are crowded and you're not provided any food or water. But your books, that's not inhumane. Water would ruin you. It's still one more nonfiction shelf to look at, maybe in 2 parts down here. What's up? And we'll switch to a different section. Science. And that'll kill off all my last followers. Just kidding. But I swear, it's really funny. Anytime I go to a niche section, the people watching the channel just drop off. Like sci-fi almost killed the booktube star. Oh, you're not exactly a star. Shh. Index cards for plotting out a novel, and they're giant. Awesome. Yes. Well, I hope I haven't alienated my apartment neighbors. This one guy that I gave a copy of Stoner by John Williams to, because he was from Missouri, was all friendly with me and was talking with me. And then after I gave him that book, he got like super nasty and like won't look at me, won't talk to me. Like, does he think I'm a cop or something? Or like picking up on him or something? Dude's like 70, I think. Has no one ever been friendly to you, sir? Then in general, I've noticed people just kind of being more aloof. I think they may have taken that guy's side because he's the brother of Linda, who lives downstairs. Still, didn't want a dude idling in front of my house all the time. My home. Didn't want to walk through a cloud of carbon monoxide. Glad I said something. Could have said more. For the record, I laughed when I heard David Lynch say that's how to make a movie. But it's not a terrible idea, and it's usable, and it's generative. And it is cool to think imagistically. It is cool to think in cogent ideas. That's why I write in paragraphs. Make the paragraph the basic unit of composition. Love a big idea. Love a set piece. It's the great innovation of the blockbuster, in my opinion. But of course, Lazarillo de Tormes did it earlier. Going from master to master, situation to situation. So did many books, I'm sure. But I've been structuring out this book, and I love the structure. I'm so into it. What's even cooler than a tree, man? This tree. Nah, trees are still cooler. Well, what do y'all think of nonfiction? Who are you even? A bunch of bots? I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I know some of you are real. But it's an interesting world of YouTube when you're down in the low numbers. Sometimes I'll watch people's videos that subscribe to this channel because I subscribed back and they had a public profile. Like, I don't know, I guess as a courtesy, and thank you. But also because I love like slices of life. Some people post great videos that have followed this channel. Like they have really well edited, compelling, engaging, interesting little videos about like a little trip or something, and it's like, this is awesome. Or like something funny with a pet or a family member. I mean, it's cool. I think that might be a cool hipster zone that's not been fully explored by hipsters. YouTube videos with like under 50 views. Haha. Back in the day, you'd spend weeks with your friends making a silly video and you'd show it to maybe 10 people, with a camera and a VCR. Maybe 20, 30 people, I love art and culture wherever I find it, and I often like the underground, fringe, deep stuff. And what's more IRL deep web than videos only seen by 50 people or something, Most of my videos are in that category now too, and I'm kind of fine with it. As I said, this channel is also generative for me. I would like to see the numbers climb. It'd be, it's nice to know you're talking to a group that's listening, but I just really don't want to be begging for likes and subscribers and all this stuff all the time. I get why people do it. Some channels have found really discreet, simple ways, like they'll just do it at the end of the video. I think that's cool. Liminal Spaces says, like, it helps the channel grow, and that's true. If I ever, like, get around to, like, setting up a Patreon or something like that, I'd be like, fund more bookcases. I think what I'm more likely to do is set up, like, an Etsy shop selling a few, like, merchandise type things, like postcards of the cats and books, or, like, a zine, or, like, a deal where, like, pay $50 and I'll send you, like, a big box full of books from the collection, tell me some things you're into. No, this is America. Everyone's got second jobs. Like, I often hear this security guard talking, and he also works at an Albertsons. And the other night, he got stranded in Santa Fe because he couldn't afford the gas back. I'm like, what are you getting paid, man? You have 2 jobs. Santa Fe is about an hour north of Albuquerque, for those of you not from here. Neil Young says 90 miles away in a song, but that ain't accurate. I was told it's not. My favorite song about Santa Fe is from Bob Dylan. Beirut has a good one, too. I think they're both called Santa Fe. I wrote an article once about the rivalry between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, but I don't feel it deeply. I like Santa Fe. But I also stand up for Albuquerque, and I don't like when Santa Feans bag on Albuquerque. Do I have to remind you? It's a myth. But whenever I go to a show in Albuquerque, or in Santa Fe, all the Albuquerque people show up a little bit late, but they're always the ones dancing in the front. I'm like, that says so much about Albuquerque. We're like Santa Fe's garage. That's reductive, but it's a little realer. Santa Fe feels very small town. There's parts of Taos that feel exactly like Santa Fe. It's crazy. And Taos is pretty small, except for the very, very fancy resort with billionaires that go there. And the Earth ships these amazing houses. Nonfiction. Not untrue writing. Great name, Nonfiction. Fiction gets supremacy. That's interesting. It's like people are like, that's better when you can just make stuff up. Well, fiction does get at essences in a way that nonfiction can, but sometimes struggles too. I think narrative nonfiction can bring it home. Next time we're going to look at some cool other nonfiction. All right. Always love it when people comment. Thanks for interacting with the channel. Thanks for watching the channel. Y'all are cool. Let's talk about what we're reading in the comments. Whatever. All right. Take care, everybody. What's up, kitties? Hi. Sonora says she'll work on this room later. This is Sonora and Willow's room. The 2 youngest, but they haven't put a lot of work in over here yet. Started. That's a very cute squirrel. Like, when I look at books for younger readers, is that going to destroy the channel also? Maybe. Again, I don't care. Next time, nonfiction. Glad you're all out there, those of you that are. Take care.